Hello, welcome to Mission Driven Monday. I'm here with Dara Bucynski. She is the founder of really a shop, a boutique, an organization. I don't even know what to call it, but it's Ephiphany Athens, and it's in Athens, Georgia, where she sells the most beautiful clothing, jewelry, I don't know, little items for your home, just all kinds of wonderful, beautiful things. And she raises money for orphan care. Remind me the name of that orphan care organization that you raise money for.
One that I work most closely with is called Heart for Orphans.
Heart for Orphans. And I love her story. She was introduced to me by another friend, and I just said, oh my gosh, I have to talk to Dara, because she has taken things that she loves, which is beautiful things and clothing and shopping, and she's combined it with a mission that's really all about generosity. And here at Mission Driven Monday, our motto is follow your mission, not the madness. And so here we are today with Dara. Are you ready?
I am. Thank you, Chantel. Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome. You're welcome. So Dara, we ask the same 3 questions every week, and I am going to start off asking you a question. I know that you're married, your husband's a doctor, and you have several children. One of whom is adopted, your oldest, correct?
Correct.
And you have done a lot in your life, and you've seen a lot, but when you look back over your life, what are you the most proud of?
Well, I think like a lot of your guests, I really struggled with that question, and I kind of kept circling back to honestly the thing that I guess had the most joy and continue to have the most joy in was and is raising my children, and the fact that they're walking with the Lord and serving the Lord and challenge me in my relationship with the Lord. So I struggled with it mostly because I was like, is that an accomplishment? No, it's not mine. Certainly
Right.
the Lord's handprints are all over that. My husband, just an amazing leader for our family. But it is the thing that I'm, kind of post midlife, I guess, a little bit older than midlife, but I've been a parent now for 23 years. Natalie, our adopted daughter's 23 years old, and that's the thing that when I look at it, I'm like, that makes me very joyful to know that they're walking with the Lord. But it's also just the process of adopting her, and our struggles with infertility were also what the Lord used to kind of bring me to where I am currently in life. So it's kind of really cool how he just kind of allowed me to kind of go full circle with desiring to be parents and having that struggle. And we moved to Ukraine and kind of laid down our plans to start a family kind of at Jesus' feet, because we've done everything medically that we could do to start a family. And when we got to Ukraine, we met Natalie, and she was 8 months old. It took us about 8 months to adopt her, but during that period of living in Ukraine as missionaries, I got pregnant as well. So, and then, it was probably a good 13 or so years before I returned to Ukraine. And that's really where he broke my heart for orphans. And I kind of came back from a trip having met girls who were about Natalie's age. She was about 14 years old at the time, and had asked the orphanage director, what would happen with her? What would her next steps be? The orphanage director said, well, after 9th grade, they're taken to the orphanage gates with really just the belongings that they might have in a shoebox, and they cannot return here. They will want to come back to the orphanage because this is what they've known. And this particular orphanage was a kind and good place, but she said they won't be allowed back in, and they're really left to fend for themselves. And I just couldn't reconcile that with the daughter that we had at home, with any of the children that I knew. I just thought that just can't happen. So at that point, I just started saying, what do I do, Lord? You've broken my heart. I know you don't intend to just leave me here with this broken heart. I know this breaks your heart. And, what part do I play in it? What do I do? So.
Many times when I interview women and I know that they have children, and I ask them this question, I'm like, you're not allowed to say your kids. You're not allowed, because they're they're God's. They're not your accomplishment. I say that sometimes. But what I've seen is, and I'm coming to understand this, is that as women, it's just in us to want to be mothers. And I think that a lot of times we have these other things, these other lives. Like you said, you were an audiologist, before you started this. And being a mother is like unpaid work, right? We don't get paid to do that. And yet we're still willing to do it. And when we get, to the end of our life and we look back at what we're proud of these people that have come alongside us and that we have raised with God's help. And I'm seeing like over and over again how important that is. That so often the most important work that we do is unpaid work. And so to hear you say that, I mean, it's inspiring to hear you say that, actually.
Well, I think it was definitely in God's plan to kind of make me wait to want it, because everything in my life had always kind of come easily.
Yeah.
And what I wanted more than anything was to be a mom, and I wanted my husband to experience being a father. And so, we waited a lot of years. And I just remember after becoming a parent to Natalie and then to Leah, I just remember thinking, I'm not going to waste a minute of this. Like I will appreciate every minute. And it's hard. It is sacrificial,
Yeah.
but I look back and I'm like, I'm glad I did that. I'm glad that I made the sacrifice to really be completely 100%, as much as I could, present and hunger for something different or want, to return to my career and make something. I mean, my kids were, kind of it for us, and it was a great run.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you also said that word that I love is this word joy. And my friend Melanie, she says the difference between happiness and joy is that joy hurts. And I think probably in your story, there were a lot of times when there was a lot of hurt and pain. And so that joy, you probably feel it even more so. It's even more intense of an emotion for you.
Absolutely. I mean, having wanted children, the difficulty in adopting, the difficulty in conceiving. And then we have a child also who has special needs. So our 19-year-old son has got a moderate intellectual deficit, and he's just the greatest third wheel. If you're going to have somebody with you longer than the average bird, he's just got the greatest outlook on life. And there were just times when that was just really painful, to know, like, would he ever walk? Would he ever talk? He had no diagnosis. We didn't have anything to go on, but just to see, he is the first one in our house. If we're talking about some situation, he's like, we've got to pray for them. And, I know that God didn't just kind of skip over him and say, okay, I've got these plans for you, these plans for you. Oops, nope, not for you. Like, God has plans for him, and we're already seeing that. So, so there definitely, the pain makes the joy even sweeter, I think, when you just see just God's hand on them as they grow and develop and change and walk with Jesus. I'm challenged pretty much on the regular. I am challenged by my kids, like, oh yeah, why didn't I turn to God first? Or, wow, that's an amazing. My oldest daughter sent me, she said, I found this text. I thought that this would, encourage you today. And I read it and I said, where'd you find that? That's amazing. Like, who wrote that? Who's the author? She said, oh, I wrote it. God gave it to me.
Oh,
I was blown away. I mean, I really was. So they're amazing kids, and it's been the greatest joy of my life.
Well, now that you're in this season where your kids are kind of growing up, and they are probably, either if they're not out of the house already, they're close to being out of the house. What are you learning right now in this season that you're in?
Well, it's really, just kind of like, we'll just segue with that. I feel like I have probably a more full life than most of my friends who are, in their mid-50s.
Yeah.
I feel like, gosh, I have this business. I'm, I just got back from Ukraine last month, and, got to see the ministry firsthand again, which I try to do several times a year. I have a really full life. I have great friendships. I love to garden. I have a lot of interests, but I'm really struggling in this season to say, okay, what's what's the next thing? And so most of the people like in my close circle will have heard me say in the last few months, like, I don't like this season of life. And, I've said all the good things have already happened.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like, oh, that's a lie. That's a lie. But, it may not be a lie. And it could be that, you do have a prime. You have a prime for, the things that in your career, you might have, like, gosh, I hit top there. Those were great years.
Yeah.
Physically, we have a prime where our body is, functioning at its best. We might have a prime in our, outward appearance where we're like, okay, I'm eating well, I'm exercising, I'm taking care of myself, I look great, this is kind of as good as it gets.
Mm-hmm.
But you do hit a point where you're not looking at that anymore. So for me, like the next season, I'm like, okay, what does that look like? And I think what I'm learning is to really not recreating myself, but like thinking, okay, yes, my children brought me joy, and I have all these other things that are so life-giving to me, my relationships with the people I work with here at the store, the customers that we see, but where else can I spark joy? Where else can I, embrace this new season, this new chapter in our lives? And just trying to kind of imagine and kind of, get with God and just say, what does this look like? If that was the best, I'm not saying that good is not to come. So like, how do I do that? And one of the things, my husband and I work so hard. we have great work ethic. We don't have good rest ethic. We really, so just trying to say, okay, maybe now is the time where we schedule things that we do that are more fun. So if I'm learning anything in this season, I'm hoping it's just to look forward to the next season. Yeah.
Gosh, I mean, I hear you there, because I feel like I'm always looking for what's next, and I feel like it never comes soon enough. Right. I feel like there's so many things I want to do and love to do, and I want to see blossom and grow in a way, and it never comes soon enough for me. But there's also something to be said, like you just said, for like resting in it and seeing what God can do in that in-between space as well.
Yep.
So, yeah.
I read an article that talked about being in a hallway. It's like you've left one room and you haven't entered into the next room. You're kind of in a hallway season.
Yes.
Well, that's good, but it doesn't have to be dark in the hallway. Maybe we can have fun in the hallway.
Yeah, there's skylights in the hallway.
Exactly.
I like that. So when you look to the future, because we were just kind of talking about that, actually. So you're looking to the future you. I want you to tell me a little bit about your aspirational self. And sometimes when I think about this, I don't know if I said this when we were talking before or when I had sent you an email, requesting the interview, but I sort of pick 3 adjectives for myself. Like, okay, I want to be curious, I want to be genuine, and I want to be brave. And so every night I kind of go to bed asking myself, okay, today was I curious? Today was I genuine? Today was I brave? When you think about that for you, and you don't have to do it that way. I mean, you can talk about it any way you want, but what does your aspirational self look like?
Mm-hmm. I love that question. And I was like, gosh, I really should come up with 3 questions, but I'm not wired that way. I'm going to like wake up and what does this day hold?
Right.
But, one of my life verses, or just a verse that has always just really resonated with me, is Proverbs 31:25. She is clothed with strength and dignity, and has no fear of the future, or she laughs at the days to come. And I love that translation the best. She laughs at the days to come. I love it that, we sell clothing and it's like she's clothed with strength and dignity, and, it's a Christian store where we give away our profits to help ministries that are doing amazing things. But I think really in this season, I'm really like pressing into that verse and saying, what does that look like? And my future self, and think what I'm kind of working on a lot right now is, being in business, being in ministry, there's always something that happens that's frustrating, or something that's unexpected, or something that didn't go as planned. And I really want to be that person that just says, okay, God, what are you doing here? Instead of getting frustrated, instead of getting angry, instead of reacting or trying to even figure out, oh, what's my next step? What do I do now? how do I fix this?
Mm-hmm.
Just saying, okay, God, this was part of your plan. I didn't see this coming. What does that look like? Because there's no fear in that. And
Right.
then you really are a light and you have laughter. And to me, that's being your most beautiful self. When you are fully confident that your God's got your back.
Yeah.
And you're brave. You are brave, because you're
Mm-hmm.
not brave in your own self, but you're like, okay, I didn't see that coming, but I know that God's got a plan. God will work this out. He promises me, and we're just going to walk in that. So I hope my future self looks more like that than it does now, but I think I've grown in that also in the past 2 years, where just being kind of a type 1 type A
Yeah.
personality, trying to micromanage and make sure everything goes according to plan. There's just some things you just cannot plan for, and I think there's a lot of growth to be had, in my relationship with Jesus, and all of us, can
Yeah.
grow in that, where we just rest. Again, just that word rest.
Mm-hmm.
But I love, laughing at the days to come. Like, I don't have to fear, not even for the days to come, but even like in the next hour, I don't have to, be twisted up about that. Or, when something happens that's not, wasn't on my calendar, that's
Mm-hmm.
okay. So
Yeah.
I hope I look a lot more like that next year than I do right now. But I think I look a lot more like that this year than I did last year. So I think hopefully we're making progress.
Yes. I know. The thing about unexpected things is that sometimes it's really fun, like a fun surprise. And then sometimes it's something terrible, like you said, that we're not expecting.
Yeah.
And I think I read somewhere recently where somebody was talking about that. And they were saying when the unexpected happens, like just to stop and pause and go, okay, what else am I choosing not to see right now? And just kind of pause for a second and look around and go, okay, what am I not seeing? Because there's always a solution or a next step to take or whatever. But so often we get paralyzed and we're just, like focused in when we can go, okay, what am I not seeing? And start looking around and to think about it in that way. And I love that.
I like that a lot, because a lot of times, if you're a person who this isn't action focused, I guess, what do we do? How do we fix
Mm-hmm.
this? Or what's
Yeah.
my response to it? That pausing, I think, is very healthy, and just, kind of taking a step back, because God's not surprised.
Right.
God's not taken aback. Yeah, he's down in the details, but he's also, 1,000 feet away and can see, okay, I'm doing something here. And
Mm-hmm.
I want to be a part of that, whatever that looks like. I don't want to thwart him by stepping into the middle of something with my great idea about how to fix something.
Yeah.
Although that's been, kind of my in the years. And
Yeah.
I hope that that's winsome. I hope that, my hope would be, if there's a legacy, that, people would know that I walked confidently because, God was with me,
Mm-hmm.
that is what people noticed about me. So yeah, and didn't always do it well. I hope people see that too. I didn't always do it well, and then I would try again, and hopefully.
But you did your best.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
and he did his part, and
Mm-hmm.
I did my imperfect part, and that was enough.
Yeah. Well, that's great. Well, Dara, thank you so much for meeting me today and for sharing your story and for answering these questions. I loved it. I loved our conversation, and I think that you're very thoughtful and wise. And I hope that everybody enjoyed this edition of Mission Driven Monday, and we'll come back again next week where we'll have another guest. And if you're ever in Athens, please visit Ephiphany Athens. I will post a link to the store, because I know you can shop online as well. As well as Heart for Orphans and any other resources that you want to share with our audience, Dara, please send those to me so that I can include them in the show.
Yes, thank you so much. It's been a
Thank
joy.
you. All right. See you next time.